Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations about money. Join your host, Lauren Williams, four-time Olympian turned financial planner, as her guests share their stories about how they manage money. We aim to help you own your personal money story and feel good talking about it. Lauren will teach you that money is a tool that can help you live the life you want. You should feel comfortable listening, sharing, and communicating about it. And now, here's your host, Lauren Williams.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Worth Listening podcast. Today, I'm excited to have Jasmine Henderson here to share her money memoir with us. Jasmine is a current two-time world record holder, former professional soccer player, author, empowerment speaker, and a mom. Her unexpected pregnancy at 25 led her away from being a WWE diva to becoming an author and a speaker. She encourages people to live beyond limits and beyond labels. An advocate for women empowerment and equality, Jasmine coaches young soccer players, speaks around the world, and is writing her next book. That means she's already written one, people. She Will Rise. Make sure you check that out. Today, Jasmine shares with us how she discovered the major lies that were holding her back from progressing in her finances and other parts of her life as she hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro. Yep, that's not figurative, people. That is literal. She was hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro when she had an epiphany about her finances. The lessons that she shares with us is something that every woman, and not just every woman, but every person can learn from. Today we discuss equal play for equal pay efforts in professional soccer, understanding self-worth, and the mindset that holds so many people back when approaching their finances. Let's listen as Jasmine shares her money memoir. All right. Hello, good people, and welcome to Worth Listening. Today, our guest is Jasmine Henderson, and you are going to be blown away by her story. Jasmine, hello.
Hello, hello.
Well, let's just start by you telling us a little bit about yourself. And from that standpoint, I say, can you tell a little bit about your upbringing and in working in giving us a little bit of background about you? Tell us your first money memory.
Well, first of all, Lauren, thank you so much just for having me on, for inviting me. And I think it's so cool what you're doing, just talking about finances and stuff like that, just accessible to people, because it's definitely a conversation that gets left out quite often. And a lot of our dreams and stuff like that, you know, we never, or at least I never did, and that's part of my story, but I never really thought of that practical side of money. So it's so cool to be on here and to talk to your listeners and to share a little bit about my story. And so I'm born and raised from LA, one of the few who actually is from LA. And I just grew up in a household where there was 5 of us kids, mom and dad in the house. Obviously, they encouraged us to play sports. Because, though, that there were 5 of us in the household, it was interesting growing up because you're never really, at least for me, I wasn't really aware of where I stood financially or in a lot of different wavelengths. You never know where you really stand until somebody else kind of points it out to you. And what I mean by that is that we definitely were kind of lower middle class. I can still remember people just being very gracious and coming and sometimes dropping over groceries at our house because my parents had a tight month, or my grandparents, they definitely blessed us and were able to give my parents the house that we grew up in because they were blessed in that way. And it got my parents out of living in these tight apartments into actually having a house for the 5 of us. But we always had fun, and we never really knew that we were kind of in that financial thing. We just always thought, oh, cool, we got cool friends that are bringing us stuff, and we all live in a house, and we would just be playing mostly outside, and you just never really think about those things. So growing up, money wasn't really the center of conversation. We just kind of knew it. And I think on a separate point too, just in the church in general, I grew up going to church, and my grandfather's a pastor and all that stuff. And I don't know, just that money, like you talk about tithing, you talk about being good stewards of money. But nobody ever really talked about what does that actually break down to. And what I will say that I did learn though growing up is, and this is kind of my first money memory, is I remember eventually opening up a savings account because I used to go and visit my family who lived in Missouri every single summer. And what I would do is I would actually do different jobs here and there. I would save my birthday money and just different things like that so I could buy my own ticket to go to Missouri. So it was really awesome to see myself save and to actually have my own name on a banking account. I was maybe 11 years old at the time when I started my savings account. And so that was kind of the first thing that taught me about how to save, how to put away in order to reach and attain a certain goal that I wanted with my money.
I love that. I think you bring up a really good point about when you start to save. Can you tell us a little bit more about being an adult and looking back on that 11-year-old moment? What kind of things you learned from starting to save at age 11? Or is that kind of something that's ingrained in you now with that being your first memory of money? How's that played itself out?
There's kind of this interesting construct of earning something, right? And going towards a goal. And I feel like I've had a lot of moments in life where I've had a goal and I've done things to earn that goal. Because like I said, even in soccer and sports and all that kind of stuff, you have a goal, you have a target, and you very quickly learn and gain, if you're willing, obviously, and you love it, to gain the discipline to work towards that goal. But what was interesting is that, like I said, because we didn't really talk about finances and, okay, well, if you get this job, what kind of money will that make? If you get that job, or how could you save, or how could you put away for the future? For whatever reason, there was no tie-in for a very long time for me, as far as, let's say, for instance, if I want this lifestyle, and that's a goal, what do I get and what are the disciplinary things that I need to put aside in order to live in that lifestyle, which money can provide. Now that I actually think about it, when I look back at the different jobs that I started getting after that moment when I was kind of early teens, mid-teens, there would be times where I would take kind of these odd jobs and then I wouldn't get paid for it. And I didn't really know how to use my voice then because I was younger. And because it had to do with money and we never really talked about money, it's almost like I never really learned that proper etiquette of being firm and fair at the same time to really get paid what was either agreed upon or really what was worth my time. And so that actually plagued me for a very long time. When I later went to college and got a scholarship to play soccer, it took a while for the scholarship money to actually come to play. And again, I still didn't really know how to use my voice to say, hey, we signed a contract. This is the money that you're supposed to owe me or that you're supposed to give me. So I think it actually kind of tied in, unfortunately, with some of that self-worth conversation. If we really look down at anything, at least for me in my own reflection, wherever I am financially has been reflected upon my own self-worth.
You are hitting on all kinds of nuggets right now.
Yes. And it took a long time to see that. And really it was just kind of as life lived out, college and then playing professionally, which that's a whole nother thing about that contract and self-worth conversations and all that stuff. And really it took until having my son and becoming a single mom. And then again, all those labels of single mom, you're supposed to struggle financially, that limits you, just all these things about single moms. It really took up until last year, to be honest, and I'm 31, okay? But it really took up until last year when we set the world record on Kilimanjaro. And there's a specific moment that I can attach this, but when I finally figured out that, Jasmine, you've been living and feeding into this lie of other people telling you your worth and other people labeling you and saying that you're supposed to struggle and you're supposed to do this and that and you can never do this and that because you're a single mom and because all these different things. that's what I left on the mountain. And so coming back, it's just now my financial stability looks completely different because I finally died to that conversation.
Yes. So like I said, you just hit 97 nuggets, dropped so much on us. Let's go back and break a little bit of that down. So the first thing that sticks out to me is my self-worth and my net worth are not related. It is kind of the motto of Worth Winning, because I think so frequently, like you said, people get kind of tied up in the material things being tied to value, and they don't value themselves because they don't have these material things. But it was almost like the reverse for you, is that you couldn't speak up and say, hey, there is a value to my contributions here.
Yep.
And I deserve to be compensated for those things. Though, like you said, our self-worth and our net worth are not related, it doesn't mean that we are worthless.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, because I'm a natural achiever, like that's just my personality. I love to achieve things. But at the same time, it was almost the weakness, because then I attached my worth to my achievements, and I was attaching my worth to what other people said about me. And especially as athletes too, it's like, how much playing time do you get? And that's what I took it as, unfortunately, was, well, that's how much I'm worth then. How much playing time is how much I'm worth. All these different worthiness conversations that were happening on the field with the coach in my sport, in friendship and relationships, and even the guys that I dated, unfortunately, to even straight up on compensation, period. All these things were in my mind saying that my worth was somehow less. And so that completely reflected in my finances, because you've got to feel worth something first on the inside to be like, yes, and this is how I get to be compensated financially, and to not think that somehow there's a whole world of abundance and wealth, and to somehow think that I'm not worth part of that abundance, or that there's nothing for me, is just a straight up lie.
Amen. The devil is a liar.
And wanted me to believe that and stay bound. And that's why I'm just so passionate about really empowering people, because especially when it comes to worth, because it becomes a prison. And you have the keys the whole time. That idea of the elephant, right? When the elephant's a baby and they tie a rope around it and stick it to the peg, well, eventually as a baby elephant, they try to leave and they eventually give up. So then now that they're a big, huge elephant, it would take nothing. It would be effortless for it to walk away and to go away somewhere. But because mentally it's been conditioned to think, I cannot get out of this, then it never does.
Exactly. We should talk a little bit about breaking the chain. So you talked about being up on that mountain. So first tell people about what you did, because you are a world record holder.
Yes.
And then get back to, like you said, what you left on that mountain and what you came down with, and how you've kind of shifted your paradigm since then.
Absolutely. So we set a Guinness World Record, official Guinness World Record, for the highest altitude soccer match ever played. Yes, 90 minutes in the crater of Mount Kilimanjaro. And it was just crazy, because when I first got approached about that opportunity, they were asking, well, why would you want to do this? And my first gut reaction is that I thought, man, if I could go this and do this with these women, and it was all women's squad, 30 women from 24 different countries. And I thought to myself, man, if we can accomplish this and show people how possible it is to do this great feat of playing at almost 19,000 feet above sea level, as, you know, women from all over the world coming together in one mission and one goal, what else can people see as possible in their life? But the crazy thing is that I didn't realize that that's the exact message that I needed for myself. And so the whole thing, we're doing great. We had been climbing for about 6 days, and even had like a practice match with, even that would have set the world record had we played there. But we kept going because we wanted to obviously set the record at the top. And that 7th day, on that morning, it was game day. And for whatever reason, all the other days, my stomach was fine. Everything was good. And I don't know whether it was nervousness or something I ate, or because the wind was shaking really, really violently the night before. And it was this nervousness of like, man, we could be hiking in that tomorrow. woke up at 2:00 in the morning, and I just had this huge pain in my stomach. And I pride myself on having a very, very high pain tolerance. I've played a whole second half not knowing it on a broken foot. Even in childbirth, my son, he was 9 pounds, 2 ounces, and I had him without an epidural. So my pain tolerance is pretty high. But for whatever reason, I woke up, the pain was so bad that I was just stunned. We started hiking at 2:30, and within maybe 45 minutes or an hour, my group was totally ahead of me, and I was literally by myself with a guide and my porter.
Man.
And I'm doubling over, like maybe every 10 minutes, doubling over. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is the day. I cannot not make it. As an athlete, mentally, you're prepared for these things, right? You're like, what can motivate me? What goal do I have that can help get me over this? And so I start thinking about my teammates, and I'm like, they need me. I'm a part of this. They need me up there, and I'm hiking, and that doesn't work. Then I start thinking about my son, and I start thinking he needs to know that this is possible, that all things are possible for him. And a little bit about my son is when he was 3, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And the label that comes with that, and that's been a mountain climb in and of itself. I was wanting him to know how mommy is labeled a woman, and how some people think that that labels me and limits me. That in the same way that him being labeled as autistic, people think that that limits him, and it doesn't. So I'm thinking about that, and even that did not get me up there. And so finally, with my personal belief, I believe in God, and I just started to pray, and I was like, I don't know what else to do. And my guide, he just turned over to me, and he was just like, okay, where's your pain level from 0 to 10? And it was legit out of 10. And Lauren, maybe you've had those moments where, when your coach is saying something to you and you know that it's do or die time. And I could just hear it in his voice that if I didn't change something soon, I was going to have to go back to the base camp. And if you go back to the base camp, even if I started to feel better, there's no way that I could come back up for the game. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And I start walking. This song comes to mind. I start singing the song, just we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. And eventually, obviously, I make it to the top with my team. I catch up to my team, and we make it to the top. And some of us just started crying because that was the hardest thing we had ever done. The easier part was going to play 90 minutes. That was the easy part because we know how to do that.
Right.
But honestly, though, it was just so poetic that we were playing in ashes, because I really felt something that didn't serve me, something that was a lie, just died. And that was the lie of, you're a single mom, you don't count, you're worthless, just all these different things that had just been lies. It was almost as if God needed to remind me, it's all well and good, Jasmine, that you want to do it for your team or you want to do it for your son, but how about just do it because there's greatness within you? And I feel like he wanted to remind me that I'm made of a lot more than what the world and what they had been saying about me. And I think one of the things that really put me over to the edge once I got back with my group and we kept climbing was that thought that, man, Jasmine, how many times has someone told you that you can't? But then even in that stillness, as we're walking up, I'm like, the truth is, Jasmine, how many times have you told yourself that you can't? And I just remember tears just started coming to my eyes, but I was like, Jasmine, you can't cry right now. You can barely breathe. Like, hold the tears, okay? And that was the speech that I gave to my team before the game, is I was just like, deeper, like, yes, we're here for gender equality in sports, and we're here because of how many times somebody else said that we can't do this because we're a girl, or we can't do that because we're a woman. But the truth is that's just what they say. And what's more important is, what do you say about you?
She just dropped so many words on us, guys.
Yep.
If you are not religious, that is okay. I'm sure you took all the motivation and inspiration, and if you didn't, let me just break some of the nuggets down for you.
Yeah.
We are limitless
Yeah.
in all things that we do.
Yep.
We're here talking about money. And I mean, this is one of those things where mindset is the thing that's going to matter most.
Absolutely.
How many times have you told yourself that you can't? How many times have you told yourself a message of brokenness? I don't have another dollar. I can't make another dollar. I'm never going to be able to pay this bill, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And in reality, it's like you said, climbing that mountain is like taking this moment, taking this time to say, I am worth this.
Yes.
I am worth getting my finances organized. I am worth understanding what this is all about and being responsible so that I can be financially free.
Yes. 100%. Absolutely. And even sometimes I'll venture to say, Lauren, because I know that it was a conversation that I had with myself too, is sometimes even when we think of those lies about generationally,
Yes.
if your family has been one way or has been in one socioeconomic status, it's like, well, that's how it's been and that's how it's always going to be. When we start hearing those conversations of ourselves where it's like, it's always or never, usually that's a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm never going to get this, or I'm never going to break free from that, or it's always going to be like this, or this is always going to happen. Those are just lies. And it's that's what I'm saying. I literally just left that up there on the mountain. And I feel like sometimes, especially I know for me, when I was in those financial hardships, I kept praying, I kept strategizing. And again, you don't have to be religious, but I just kept thinking to myself, I just need this to pass. I just need this to pass. Instead of being like grateful for the mountain, grateful for the hardship, because I needed to discover something about myself in order to get to the top. I firmly believe that wherever we're at, whatever mountain, we're not meant to be left there in the middle of the struggle, but we have to be willing to do the hard work
in the midst of the struggle. I hope you guys are listening because I'm getting the word right now. Jasmine is empowering me.
I just think back to so many times where I wanted to wish myself off the mountain instead of like, let me actually discover the treasure inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I can actually discover and have that power to reach the top. Because listen, Lauren, here's the thing, and this is something that I've been learning in myself. If I'm not willing to reach the top of this mountain, there are greater mountains yet to come that have a greater return and a greater reward. So if I'm unwilling to break through just at this level, then I'm keeping myself from so much more, so much more. But I gotta be willing to learn the lesson and to dig deep and to dig in order to reach this mountain. So then I build my muscles, my financial muscles, my relationship muscles, whatever it is, but particularly in this setting and what you're talking about. And in terms of this, for me, that first very baseline was owning my worth again. And obviously the next steps, now I can build upon that foundation to build my IQ, to stop being blind and ignoring stuff like it doesn't exist, but to start build my IQ and build the finances and the freedom and build the knowledge and take the fear away from it. But it starts by even the mountain that you're on right now, being determined that, okay, whatever I get to learn, I'm going to learn it and I'm going to climb it so I can reach the top. So then I can reach to the next and the next. And like you said, it's limitless, honestly.
Yeah. And I would imagine too that doing it for your son in addition to for yourself is something that probably has come into play. And I really love what you said about being a single mom. I know, like you said, the term just gets thrown around all the time and it's not synonymous with broke or, it has such a negative connotation. The two words put together like single and mom. It's like, ooh, single mom. And it's also become a mindset for some young ladies.
Exactly.
But I think that, you probably have a message for other single moms out there about the way in which you can organize your finances and what it really means to be a single mom. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Once I found out that I was going to be a mom, it's very interesting to kind of look back now because my kiddo, he's 5.5 now. And I look back on it and I just realized that for me, it was such a beautiful gift, even though I like to call him my loving interruption. But it was really a gift because I shifted mindsets from pursuing a career to pursuing my purpose.
Mm.
And a lot of that was just because I literally see my legacy every day. It's no longer like, oh yeah, maybe one day, like it's no longer theoretical. He literally is there and he's watching me. He's watching me. Kids look at what you do.
Right.
And so it's always been very important to me, even when I was battling mentally with that struggle, especially surrounding that word of single mom, it was always important that he sees that mommy's winning and I'm winning. And especially as single moms, there's a lot of stuff that we do, and some of it is sacrificial. You know what I mean? Like parents do sacrifice a lot. But I think at the same time, to look for those moments as a single mom to where your kid is winning and you are winning. Because if your kid's winning but you're losing all the time, that's an imbalanced thing that your child grows up with. Because again, remember, you are shaping their world, you're shaping their context. And what I mean by losing is if mommy's not taking care of herself, if mommy's not happy, if mommy's always gone and working and you never have time with mom, these are all different messages that you're giving, whether they're negative or positive in your eyes. But to me, it was always important that my son saw that my life or my purpose didn't stop when I had him.
In that same vein, what are you planning to teach your son about money? I know you said money was not talked about frequently in your household and
Yeah.
recently shifted the way that you organize your finances. So in being a mom, what messages do you want your son to have about money or understanding?
Yeah. What I want my son to know is that money does not bring happiness, but it does give you choices. And as far as not being afraid to talk about money and to ask for what you're worth. And I think that a lot of times, even in the way that we grow up, I'm not asking my son, what do you want to be when you grow up? No, actually, what lifestyle do you want to live? How do you want to serve people? And I think that shifting in that mindset, and I say that only because just in society as a whole, you know, we think, oh, I'm going to choose to be this or I'm going to choose to be that. And there's no real consideration of what that lifestyle is going to hold with that job or with that career. There's no context around that. And again, we need all the lawyers and doctors and firefighters, you know, we need all those people, you know, all the typical things that kids kind of grow up with, you know, I'm going to be a firefighter or a policeman. Like those are awesome goals. But it's also too, okay, do you want to do that because you want to serve people? Or do you want to do it because it looks cool, right? Or with the doctor, like there are real lifestyle choices that come as far as schooling, as far as spending a lot of time in the hospital and away from your family. And although you're financially giving a lot of support, are you able to create something where you're still able to be with your family? So different things like that, obviously. And as far as financially, becoming aware of saving and taking care. And that's what I'm focusing on right now. Okay, Jasmine, it's great that you want to help save the world, but let's help the world of your family first, which is my son and myself. So making sure that we have money in the bank for emergencies, making sure right now in congruency with coaching and which I'm going to be telling too about writing a book and speaking, I'm also working with mentors on how to build an asset and residual income. So that way I buy my time back and I'm not answering to a boss and I'm not having that imbalance of a lot of time and no money
Right.
or a lot of money and no time. So principles like that, where just being, like I said, lifestyle focused, taking care of that first circle of your family first, so then you can be generous and really be generous and not just living paycheck to paycheck, wishing that you could financially make a change in the world. But being smart with your money in such a way where, like I said, you build an asset, you build residual income, you build that freedom for yourself So then you can in turn support and live out your purpose.
Yes, yes, yes. All the nuggets. It really is about choices and shaping those choices around your purpose.
Yeah.
And money, I always say, is a tool to help you live the life you want. It is not the main thing that you're focusing on. Like you said, it shouldn't be the main goal. Otherwise, you always end up disappointed because it's not a goal that you can ever reach or attain or be done with.
And at the same time, money isn't evil. It's the love of money, right? Just coming back from that kind of growing up in church, where it's like celebritized, like how much you're giving or how little you're living off of to help everybody else. And like I said, it's abundant. It's not as if because I'm making a lot of money, it doesn't take away from anything else. If anything, in my eyes, money kind of just amplifies who you are. And if you're a generous person, then when you get money, you're going to be generous. And if you're a selfish person, then when you get money, you're just going to be more selfish. You know what I mean? For me, my beliefs, like, it's not like God calls us all or wants us all to live like without any money.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point too about just replacing the negative cliches with some positive affirmations.
Yep.
Just like you said, like money amplifying who you are. That's just something to think about and to kind of digest for people and say, like, the things that I have around me, is this truly who I am? Is this truly who I want to be? If somebody's on the outside looking in and all they have to judge me by is this stuff, what message am I sending with the way that I'm spending my time and my money in addition to? Because like you said, it's really not about the money itself. The money is not a bad thing. And I love, like you said, like I was just saying about cliches.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cliches is like, money is the root of all evil. And like you said, no, hold on. Like if you go back, the Bible says the love of money.
The love. Hello.
Right. It leaves some words out when they throw in those things around.
Exactly.
But really, yeah, just thinking about replacing, like you said, all the negative money messages that you've gotten over time with positive things and understanding and knowing the money itself is not a bad thing, but really having a clear definition of how you want to use that money as a tool to live your most fruitful and purpose-filled life is the thing that you should be focusing on.
Yes. I love how you say to replace, because I've definitely learned that too, that it's not enough just to take away. So for anybody listening, it's not enough just to take away that money's this, money's that, all the negative conversations. You need to replace it with the positive things about money, because otherwise we're habitual people. If you've thought a certain way about money for years, it's not enough just to take it away. You got to replace it with something else that's positive thoughts about money and a positive view of it in order to keep your focus going in that direction.
Yeah, it's so, so true. You take something away, but you need to keep your cup full, and you want to keep it full of positive things. So can we talk a little bit more about you being a soccer player? And I know it's been all in the news lately with female soccer players battling for equal pay.
100%. Absolutely. Because I think in what I've been sharing, like I said, is that a lot of it in what we did set the whole world record for. And now we have 2 world records for the highest on Kilimanjaro and the lowest altitude near the Dead Sea in Jordan. And again, it was never our intention to just do something that was crazy and then not have anything to follow it up with. The intention was always to do something that, of course, garnered attention so that we could talk about these issues and essentially change the culture and the impact that we're having with women today. So for soccer players, and that was a lot of it. So equal playing field, what I love is that we had women that used to play for the national team, used to play professionally, and some women that didn't even start playing until they were 18. But one thing that was just common throughout was this idea of inequality, whether that's to the uniforms, to the field space, to the timing, to literally being harassed because you're a woman playing sports. There's the grassroots level where there's people like young girls in Saudi Arabia who last year were just able to participate in PE for the first time. There's kind of the grassroots where that's all important, that women around the world at least get the right to have sport be accessible to them. But then there's also the top at the elite, which is what you're talking about, where it's like the women who are professionals, the women who are playing for their national team, and the equality in that. Because for even in the US, equal pay for equal play, the men aren't even in the World Cup, whereas the women dominate. We are one of the heaviest hitters, and that's been since the 90s. But ever since, Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy and Brandi Chastain and the splash that we made, and I'll just talk about my sport because that's what I can talk about, women's soccer has always performed better than the men's side. And so it's so crazy to me that almost anywhere you go, and this is internationally, if you play professionally, you have a salary, but it's not enough. So almost every professional soccer player has a full-time job or a part-time job. And so where there's men who are around the world that get paid millions upon millions, like we think it's crazy what baseball players and basketball players get paid. It is nothing compared to the men in soccer that get paid around the world. And so now we're starting to see there are some clubs that are now choosing to pay the women the exact same in the men. And there's, I think, been maybe 3 times or 4 times that the professional women's league in the US has folded due to lack of funding.
Mm.
And their argument has always been, well, if there was an audience, then we'd have sponsors and advertisers and more money would come in. Well, when you have the networks, which all media, like it's only 4% in the US of media coverage is about women in sports. 4%, that's it. So it's like, how can we gain an audience when you're basically telling us that nobody wants to watch, but you haven't even given people the chance, really? And when you look at the last Olympics in Rio, the women's, that final soccer match, the women's soccer match, that was the highest viewed program, I think, during that whole Olympics. And so there is an audience for it, but there's just not that opportunity. So, and again, that's part of the reason why I joined Equal Playing Field, because of my own experience of going to Brazil and thinking, yes, this is Brazil. This is, for soccer people, it's like the Mecca, right? Like the soccer is so, so good there and they're famous for it. And the soccer was amazing. All that was great, but I signed a contract not knowing any Portuguese. And I always wondered why I was never getting paid the amount that we agreed on. And come to find out later that once I actually learned Portuguese and we were about 3/4 through the season, that I basically had signed a contract for zero money.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about that, in a men's league, you could never get away with that.
Exactly.
Ever. And like, yes, I had housing, I had food. And like I said, he paid me from time to time, but it was never what we had agreed on. And so that mistreatment obviously kind of turned me off to where I was like, again, the messages, right? So there's no money in women's sports.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole dream that I had growing up of seeing Mia Hamm and all the stuff go through the women's professional league, thinking that that was a lifestyle that actually was attainable and that actually existed, didn't.
Unbelievable. You started the story by telling us how you were frequently afraid to speak up and just kind of let things ride. And you had to go and find your voice and realize your own personal worth in order to be able to speak up. But then also in equal pay for equal play and how it's been widespread. That's a perfect example, your personal story, but then also all across women's sports where women's hockey has been happening for years and tons of other female sports where the money is not the same as what their male counterparts are getting. And finally, we are finding our voice and starting to speak up on behalf of taking what is ours and what we are worth. We have value and it is above and beyond the price tag that someone else has put on us.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's just so interesting that it's happened to you so many different times throughout your life. But like you said, that we can find our voice. You have found your voice. Women in sports are finding their voice. And so could you just wrap us up in telling us, speak to women everywhere about what you need to do if you're having a hard time right now, you feel like you have no voice, maybe your finances are not organized in the way that you want. What's your last final word to them to encourage them to pull it together and take control and live your best life?
I think my final word to any woman out there that is struggling climbing this mountain, number one is you're not alone by any means. But also in that same sense, there are women that do it time and time again. And that same power and that same worthiness lies in you. That you have that same power, that same confidence that is in you. And in order to get it together on the outside, start inside. So it's an inside job. Self-worth is an inside job. But if you take the time to face what I like to call the messy bits of what's going on, the messy bits that you don't want anybody else to see, and you know what I'm talking about, those messy bits, start digging in. You can't replace something if you don't first take it out, and you got to take it out at the root. I would just really encourage you, what is that root? What was that first experience that you had that made you feel worthless? That made you feel maybe unintelligent or dumb or not worth what you were asking for? And begin to work on that, and then own your power and replace it. As we said, you got to replace it, knowing that you are a winner, that you were born to be victorious and to make it to the top.
Yes, yes, and yes. Way to wrap us up, Jasmine. And though we have wrapped up, we are not quite done yet. We are in our final sprint.
All right.
We have just a few questions for you, and I'm going to throw them at you rapid fire. You throw me back some answers, and then we'll be out of here.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. You've got $20 in your pocket right now. What do you spend it on?
Oh, gosh. $20 in my pocket. I spend it on taking my son to the movies.
Ah, okay. A little family time.
Summer fun.
Worst advice you've ever received?
Oh, gosh. There's no career, there's no space to speak like career-wise only to women.
Ooh, yeah. Why not? Niche marketing is everything nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Best advice you've ever received?
Build my own asset to become financially free.
Look, amen to that. All right. Something you do for fun that doesn't cost anything.
Karaoke.
Oh my goodness. Are you good at karaoke?
100%.
No, that means definitely not. I'm just gonna.
I actually won $100 in a karaoke contest one time.
Oh, so we might need to come check you out in the karaoke contest.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's so much fun.
Okay. Most meaningful gift you've ever received. Who was it from and why was it meaningful?
Recently, I would say it actually was a card that I just got from one of the girls that I coach. And she even drew me a little picture. It was so cute. And the reason why it was so meaningful is because I see a lot of myself in her, and she's very much a perfectionist. She was just thanking me for always taking the time to talk to her and to help her. That's just the first gift that comes off the top of my head. But it was from, like I said, a young soccer player that I coach, but always the personal letters like that. And I've gotten some from first graders in classrooms when I've like spoken at their class and stuff. And they've like drawn me on Mount Kilimanjaro and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, when girls said, hey, you climb Mount Kilimanjaro and I'm going to climb it too. Stuff like that. That's what means a lot to me.
Yeah. Priceless for sure.
Yes.
All right. Final question. Can you share with us one thing that you would like to improve about your finances in the upcoming year?
Yes. I guess the best way to put it is kind of like that multiplication, right? That duplication. So as far as like being able to, in building my asset, be able to duplicate it over and over and over again to really begin to see that financial growth of residual income.
Wonderful. So what's the action item that you're going to take to make sure that happens?
Well, what I do on a regular basis is that I plug in with my mentors daily with steps. So I'm always reading and I'm always listening to audios. So the action would be, probably first action today would be to make sure to check my bank account so I can make a specific and tangible goal.
Okay, I like it. We're going to follow up and make sure that you follow through on that action item.
Heck yes.
Jasmine, it was so great having you on the show today. We can't leave without you pumping yourself up a little bit. Please let us know where we can find you, how we can help you, what we can support you in, what project you have going on. Shout yourself out right now.
Okay, so where you guys can find me on social media is at Jasmine Empowers, Jasmine, like the flower, empowers. You can follow me there, check out the different speaking things that I'm doing, the lifestyle that I'm creating as a mom with Paul. And you can also find me on Facebook, again, Jasmine Empowers. My website is jasmine-henderson.com. And you can also find me on YouTube at Jasmine Henderson Empowers TV. And yeah, the next projects that I'm coming up with is actually in the fall. Be on the lookout for my second book called She Will Rise, Mountain Climber, Valley Walker. And that's going to be coming out in the fall. Later on this year, Equal Playing Field will have the film documentary coming out, which I'm super excited about. And then next year, for the Women's World Cup in France, we will be heading towards our next challenge. So you can follow Equal Playing Field on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well.
Jasmine, this was a great episode. Thank you so much for empowering us all, inspiring us all. And we look forward to being able to follow you, support you, and help us live the best financial life we can. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Lord, and thank you for everybody. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Jasmine's money memoir. There was a wealth of knowledge shared with us. Jasmine talked about how, as an athlete and natural achiever, her worth was tied up in what she was able to achieve. It wasn't until she was able to leave the lies she was believing about herself at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro that she was really able to feel empowered and start making positive changes. There's a few things I say almost every episode, and one of them is my self-worth and my net worth are not related. You don't have to have money to have value. You have to have values to have value. Money is simply a tool to help you live the life you want. It's not what life is all about. So anytime you start believing those always and never lies, you're going to find yourself stuck. Believing things like, I'm never going to get out of debt, or I'm always going to struggle with my finance. That's what's going to keep you in a place you don't want to be. Once Jasmine was able to transform her mindset, she was able to start transforming her finances and removing the fear of confronting it. So what is our word of the day today? Mindset. The simple description of mindset is an attitude or disposition. However, many studies now describe two types of mindset. One, the fixed mindset, when someone believes that their skills and abilities are what they are and that they can't get any better. This mindset is limiting and will stop you from progressing in your finances and your life in general. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is when you know that you have the ability to continue growing and expanding on what you know, learn, and are capable of doing. When Jasmine got rid of her fixed mindset, she was able to make it up that mountain, turn her finances around, and other areas of her life when she got back down. So if you're stuck in a place you don't want to be with your finances, it could be due to a fixed mindset. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you found this episode worth listening to. And as always, if you have financial questions, suggestions for guests, or would like to share your own money memoir, please contact us through our website, worth-listening.com.